SHALA Log 006, March 18th, 2020. Jungle medicine. So, okay. I will do Yoga Sutras with you. But these are the things I have to tell you first. So this is prerequisite, really, to jungle medicine. You know, in the poem that we say at the beginning of the practice, there's this word Jangalikaya Mane. It's a reference to Patanjali in his form as the jungle physician. It's a pointer to the embeddedness of the yoga techniques and knowledge stream as being part of a shamanic tradition. It's from the forest. It's passed on person to person through oral tradition for centuries. The techniques, you know, they're insanely effective. They're magical. And as a result of that, just like lots of traditional bits of knowledge and resource, they've been plundered over and over by people who want to sell them. So, I was in Peru, 6 weeks ago now only, studying with indigenous people there. And as a part of that time, even though I've spent a ton of time in Latin America in the past, I did my best to prepare the field of my heart-mind for some level of receptivity and respect for the knowledge traditions there. As part of that, I read this amazing new book by Tyson Yunkaporta, who is from a completely different traditional knowledge stream in the indigenous people of Australia. So his book is called Sand Talk, and he has done quite a few podcasts as well recently. It's excellent. When we're working with yoga, it's a completely different kind of knowledge system that's also embedded in the Vedic tradition, which isn't at all similar to what Yunkaporta is talking about. But there's a principle from his work that echoed exactly some of what the indigenous people in the Amazon were telling me, and is absolutely in line with what I've learned from my Indian teachers when I've been on the ground over the years there as well. And that is that when it comes to traditional and sacred knowledge streams, very often there's a welcomeness to students to come and learn it. But what matters to the holders of that knowledge traditionally is very much the how of the learning methodology, not just the what. In the West, we have objectifying sort of mindsets. We tend to commodify knowledge, commodify experiences, and take units of knowledge and experience and sort of sell them unit by unit on the open market, right? So that's the commodification process, the kind of stripping of sort of individual units of information down to something that has an exchange value for money that's independent of relationships or qualities that make you unique. So Yunkaporta is amazing. He says, respect the relationship that the knowledge is passed down in. And this is exactly what Desikachar made his life's work. His definition of yoga is relationship. It doesn't work outside of relationship. There's a lot of reasons for that are technical, just like actually getting the yoga to work. But also, it's a bit of a hedge against the processes of racism and colonialism and appropriation by which the knowledge is just kind of stolen, commodified, and sold on the open market for people who want to be sort of dominators of the market. So, in that spirit, what I've learned in Peru and from Yunkaporta's work reminds me of everything I've ever learned from my Indian teachers as well, which is the learning comes in relationship. So if I'm going to do Yoga Sutras at minimum, I have to also share with you about my relationships with my teachers there. I landed in India in 2009, 10 years into my practice, and somehow landed from there in my Yoga Sutra teacher's home in the afternoons for 2 or 3 hours, and they were just chanting this thing. I didn't know what it was. I just know I felt really good after I did it. So I went 5 days a week, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and got this thing into my system. They were just a circle of us sitting on a concrete floor in their very small house in Mysore. And this is, as I mentioned the other day, the logic of transmission. You learn the sounds and the shapes, and later you learn the meaning. So I got the entirety of the Yoga Sutras embedded into my deep mind by sitting face-to-face with Jayashri and doing call and response with her day in, day out, until I could not just read her lips, but recite the sutras on my own. It was only after that that I started to learn their meaning and even like have any ability beyond the knowledge of the direct translation to comment on their applicability or my individual experience with them. So first you learn the actual facts of the knowledge in relationship. Then you learn the meaning. Then maybe, if possible, you move on to the level of applicability and commentary. So then this Shala started, and I think it was in 2012 or 2013. Jayashri Narasimhan said, "We want to come to Ann Arbor." Back in the early days of the Shala, I had lots of time creatively to do really great things. And that might happen again now. But, we just went through a 6, 7, 8 year period when I was so swamped that what I'm about to describe to you isn't even imaginable for most of you. But I brought my Sanskrit teacher and her brother, who is an amazing philosophy teacher, to Ann Arbor. At the time, I was terrified when they asked. I was like, okay, let's do this. We had half a dozen students, regulars at the Shala. And I reached out to Lori Blankeny, who is the senior Iyengar teacher in town, who was instrumental in the first visit of B.K.S. Iyengar to Ann Arbor, and I think his first main visit in North America way, way long back. The reason I reached out to Lori is I said, well, I'm bringing my teachers from India who are, like BKS, Orthodox Brahmins, have all kinds of lifestyle restrictions when it comes to traveling to the West. And she put the fear in me. I was going to have to get them special beds that were a certain height. They were said to be traveling with their own suitcase full of rice because they didn't want to eat the rice here. The sort of orthodox restrictions were something I was just like, I don't have the administrative power or the knowledge to handle this. When it turned out, when they arrived, one, they had some distant family that they were able to stay with, and two, they were completely mellow and actually not orthodox at all about the way they approached this whole visit. It was amazing. In any case, that was this way that my students here could experience directly in person with them a little bit of the feeling of my own origin with this material. And it was really important to me to show that respect and also to continue that sense of relationship, both for them to see what I was doing and for my students to understand me as just a student in a longer line of transmission. We've been talking about that with the beginners too. At the very beginning of the Vande Gururam, there's a nod to the teachers and a sense that we're joining that line of knowledge that is dependent on relationship. So after this, having told you about my relationships, I'll feel like I'm honoring the source of my knowledge and have some freedom to share what it's meant to me on the level of commentary as well. I hope you have a great day. Do the thing if you haven't. It's gorgeous. Hopefully you can get outside too. Take good care. Thanks for your practice.